What's up, guys, and welcome back to Planet Coaster 2. If you're enjoying this series, make sure to leave a like on the video. It would be greatly appreciated. In the last episode, I kind of thought that we were done with our finishing touches to these 3 go-kart tracks, but overnight, I hatched a few more ideas, so that's what we're going to try to tackle today. But before we get started on that, I feel like I need to mention this now because last time I said something at the end of the episode, a lot of you missed it, and those that did seem to think that I like unalived or something, which is crazy. But I'm gonna be skipping town again due to the holidays. We've been traveling a lot this year, which has been great, but I also don't really love having to leave you guys high and dry while I'm away. So for 2025, we have just one big trip planned for now, and that is it. So hopefully my absences will be much less frequent. But at the tail end of the previous episode, I was looking around the catalog for a traffic light and was coming up empty-handed. So my first idea is, why don't we make one of those? And that's precisely what we're going to try to do. This aquatic floor light right here is already pretty close to what we need. So I'm hoping if we just kind of stack 3 of these, if we scale them down first, because it's way bigger than it needs to be. But if we just sort of stack 3 of these on top of each other, let's also maybe tilt it forward. That looks decent. And then let's try to duplicate it and just sort of drag it up a little bit. We'll try to put one on top of the other. Something like that. And then one more just above it. Now, I don't know if we can change the color of the light. I sure hope we can. With the amount of times that I've seen and used a traffic light, you would think that I would just know, like green goes on bottom, red goes on top, right? But now I'm starting to second guess myself. I for sure want the housing for these to be black. I think that's gonna be okay. I wish the light was, I wish it took up more of the housing. You know what I'm saying? So this one's obviously going to be yellow. You can't really screw that up. We'll make it a little bit more orangey, though. I think that looks closer to how it looks in real life. We'll change that housing as well. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on this. I'm fairly confident that red's on top and green's on bottom, though. Since we're going to need this elevated off the ground quite a bit more than it is, I'm going to grab the green one, and we'll rotate it around and just kind of drag it up. Try to get it as close to where it was as we can. I don't think that looks too bad. And now we can come up with some other sort of support for it. How would this flume support look if we just scaled that down a little bit? Ooh, that could be good. Hang on, that could be good. Let's change the color of it so it, you know, matches the lights. And now if we just slide these on up, I think it's gonna look pretty good. We might also want like a rectangular sort of housing around it. Maybe something like this. Let's slide that up as well. Actually, it's gonna have to go a little bit further. Right around there. Oh, you know what? We're gonna have to scale it down first, though. Let's try like 75%. It just needs to be a little smaller. Ooh, that is spot on. All right, now we'll drag it up. Let's change the color of it to black as well. That looks pretty solid. And then we're just gonna duplicate them and stack them on top of each other. Hopefully this is gonna do the trick. I mean, it's looking pretty dang good already. Now we're gonna have to select each light again, confirm that, and slide those lights on back just a tad. Just until that like circular bezel is embedded in the rectangle. Oh no. If we do that, then we're not going to be able to see the light at all. So they need to be out at least this far. That ain't too bad. It does kind of look a little bit more like a speaker than a traffic light, but I'll take it. So all we need to do now is make a big selection over all of that. We'll merge it into a scenery group. And now we can duplicate it and drag it around, place it wherever we need. So if I remember correctly, there should be a light up here. I kind of like the angle that it's sitting at too. It should sort of angle, you know, toward the racers, right? So we've got that one there. Let's do maybe another kind of at the start of this bridge. I'm thinking somewhere up here. Now, before we start duplicating these to the other tracks as well, of course, we don't want all 3 of the lights to be illuminated at the same time. That kind of defeats the purpose of a traffic light, right? So we're going to edit this scenery group. I just want the green light to be turned on. Can we not trigger these? Really, dude? Okay, let's just see, for the sake of things, let's just see how it looks at night. It does look a little odd seeing all 3 lights illuminated like that, but there's one more thing that we can try since we can't disable them like in the UI. If we go under our special effects stuff here, we just need a display sequencer, is what they're called. Now maybe we're going to be able to apply those lights to that. Wait. No. It was a good thought, though. It was a good thought. I don't think there are too many other lights that would really work for this. Oh, maybe this guy. Hang on. Can we disable it? We cannot. Can we change the color of the light? It looks like we can. But this one, too, can't be tied to the event sequencer. Bummer, dude. If we could scale the modern spotlight right here, I would totally use it. The reason I didn't pick it to begin with is because it's unscalable and it's way too big. I just don't think that would look good whatsoever. So all 3 of the lights are just going to be illuminated all the time, and that's not going to confuse the racers whatsoever. Moving on to track number 2 then. See, why can't we get... How did I not notice that before? Dude, we've got a beach cabbage like halfway onto the dang track. Okay, we're gonna take care of that momentarily, but why can't we get this as like a placeable object? It would be perfect, apart from the fact that it doesn't have a yellow light and appears to just show a constant red. Unless maybe when the carts go, it turns green. I haven't really even paid attention to that. So, like I said before, I don't really remember where these lights are supposed to be placed either, so I'm just gonna do something similar to what we did on the main track, and we'll kind of place them like at the top or at the start of these bridges. I think that's gonna work out the best. You know what else this track needs? A chicane down this super long straight right here. So I'm just gonna turn it into testing mode, and we'll make that change real quick like. Probably that whole section right there, we can just delete it, and then we'll start our chicane. Place that. I remember a long time ago when I didn't know how to pronounce chicane. Good times. Good times. That did kind of ruin our terrain around here just a little bit. So I'm going to patch that up real quick, and then we'll move on to tackle the Woody. I think our first light is going to go right smack dab in the center of this tire. It's a good thing we're putting them in the tires, right? What if somebody came along and slammed into the thing? That would be no bueno. Looks a little low too. Angle is pretty solid though. Let's just slide that up a little bit. We're gonna have to use the world axis for that. Okay, I forgot about the beach cabbage. I forgot about the beach cabbage, dude. Hold the phone. Where is it? This guy. We just gotta slide it out a little bit. Not a big deal. Our second light then is gonna go just at the top of that spire. Whoa, what are you doing, my guy? Hang on just a sec. Let's place it first. Oh, you know what? I bet you I was moving it from like one of the lights or something. So we'll just drag this one into place. I do remember sort of at the crest of this second hill right here, they had like an arch thing, almost exactly like this, with some lights in the center, but a big arch, like metal pole, metal beam, something like that. So I'm gonna see if we can't recreate that some way, somehow. Using something like this and this together could work. We'll just have to change the color. I think IRL, I think it's white. So that's what we're gonna go with. And then we'll have to modify our traffic light slightly. We'll basically just ditch the pole, right? Ditch the pole and put it horizontally, sort of in the middle of this arch. we have really outdone ourselves today. I mean, this arch barely spans the full width of the track. Just barely squeaks by. I do think all 3 of the lights, there's 6 lights, dude. What am I talking about? All 6 of the lights, I think they're supposed to be red, if I remember correctly. So we're gonna just make that quick change, and then we should be done with the Woody as well. One last addition to track 2 over here. It also had some additional lights. I think left side was green, right side was red, but there were only 4 of them. So we do still have to edit this just slightly. We're gonna delete those 2, change these both to green, and that's that. Now we can take this whole thing and duplicate it on over to the opposite side of this guy. And just like that, the deed is done. So that's all the track edits that we really need to make today. What we need to do now is something... Oh, hang on. Let's just get rid of this guy. Won't be needing him anymore. But what we need to do now is something that we should have tackled a long time ago, which is continue our cable car system all the way over to the edge of this path right here. Because currently, all 3 of these tracks are ghost towns. None of our guests have ridden them, except for like the first episode where we completed, I think, just these 2. We did have a few riders, but it hasn't happened since, which is very sad. And rather than doing it like we've done the previous builds, where we'll have a station first and then we kind of bring the track to it, I think we're gonna extend the track first and then build a new station around it. And no, it's not gonna look like these. We're getting further and further away from the main entrance. I do think it's time for a different looking building.
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
Holy cow. Okay, there for a second, I thought we were maxed out on stations. There happens to be a second page here. We're good. We're good. We're big chillin'. All that we have to do now is check to see how we did on height. Honestly, that's not bad. That really isn't bad, considering how many attempts it took me just to get it, like, just to get the track raised up enough to not only clear the whirly rig, which is now called the Tiny Eye, but also I had to space these poles or posts out enough to where it didn't put a post down like in the middle of the station area for that thing. Before we move on to working on the new station, we should probably add a floor in here now that the bowl wheel cap thing isn't in place anymore. And another thing is we're gonna have to move a lot of trees. There's quite a few trees clipping through the track. Didn't really think that one through when we were placing on the scenery, but it's fine. Shouldn't take us too terribly long.
1 hour later.
Unfortunately, that did take me quite a while, but only because I realized that the cable car system needed more power. So right over here, we've got 3 more power generators sort of under the central station for it, if you want to call it that. So we're looking good now. And come to find out, it seems like as long as one station has enough power, then all of the stations will have enough power, which is nice because I didn't really want to have to put more distributors out here anyways. So now that we have the track all free and clear, we're finally ready to start adding a building around this station. We should probably tackle the stairs first, that way we can just sort of get it out of the way. But I'm going into this with my main idea being to try to recreate the sort of central, like, main structure of the actual park, the track. It's pretty much just a square building with like a corrugated green colored roof to it, which we've used elsewhere now. Not green, but we definitely know what we're doing as far as that goes. So we'll just try to drop this down a little ways. We'll see where our height ends up at. Ooh, that's perfect. It's gonna kind of bring the rest of the terrain down just slightly by the looks of it, but that should be okay. I think it looks great, but I'm having regrets about placing it so far away from this path. So unfortunately, I think we're gonna have to undo all of this and bring this track in a little bit closer. There we go. See, that's more like it. Now the guests aren't gonna have to walk as far just to get to another path where they're gonna have to walk 300 miles just to get to the go-karts. I realize it's still not an ideal location, but it's honestly the best that we can do. So, since we're not able to align buildings to this station grid for whatever reason, it just doesn't seem to be working. If I click on station 4, it should be right here. I feel like we used it once, but I'm not seeing it as an option now. So, what I've done instead is I know that it needs to be, just because of the path here, I know that it needs to be 7 by 7. So 7 4-meter walls by 7 4-meter walls. A perfect square. So that's what I've done here. I've just kind of marked out the corners. And all we're going to do is select this building. Now that it's one piece, we're just going to slide it into position until it covers up the curb edge on all 4 corners here.
Moments later.
Ruh-roh, Raggy, that is not gonna work. 100% not going to work. You'll notice here on the backside, the station isn't really aligned with the path, and that's because our starting point for this grid path was the exit. So I need to rethink everything. What if we were to just delete this portion? We'll leave it, completely disconnected for the time being. And then if we move the station... Wait, can we move just the station, or is it going to try to move the whole track? It's going to try to move the whole dang track, man. All right, new idea. I've tried to align these 2 corners to the best of my abilities with the station. So we're gonna place our building right there, and then we will have to delete this whole path grid system. I'm gonna try to use the walls as the start of our corners for a new path. I had to switch back over to Google Earth real quick just so I could refresh my memory, and I've realized now that the main sort of structure here is not a perfect square. It's actually a rectangle, but I'm too committed to the square now, so we're gonna stick with that. It's not that big of a deal, but we can see here that it sort of has a gable section on 3 sides. So we'll try to replicate that to the best of our abilities. And then if I drop down our little character over here, what we need to look for is what type of material this is made out of. It looks like stucco. It's got some sort of like really wide decorative trim around the whole thing. And then that bit there in the middle, I don't think we're going to be able to recreate that in Planet Coaster 2, unfortunately. We might be able to try, though. Who knows? And then it's got cylindrical columns around it. So we'll try to do that. Oh, you know what? Our roof is going to be different than I was expecting. I mean, I already knew that, obviously. The shape is completely different. But it's got an overhang. So, like, around the entire building, there's this overhang to it. We can do that, though. We can definitely do that. And if you're curious as to why this building doesn't have a single window on it anywhere, even like in the second story here, it's not a casino. I promise this is a very family-friendly environment. There's an arcade on the inside. It's, kind of same idea, though. Less windows, people lose track of time, spend more money playing arcade games. You get me? So now that we're armed with a whole bunch of new information, I'm going to work on this for a little bit, and we'll see what we end up with. Hopefully, it looks halfway decent. Okay, I have been at this for way too long now. I'm just as surprised as you are, especially with how simple this building was supposed to be. You would think that it wouldn't hardly take any time at all. That was definitely not the case here. Hopefully the time-lapse footage is good enough to include, but there was quite a bit of camera motion. I might have to scrap it just because of that. I also didn't really fully think through where the cable cars were going to enter the structure at. So they do kind of clip through just a tiny portion of the roof. I did have to make some minor adjustments there, and on this side, the end of the cable car system is kind of high up, right? So I couldn't just make that portion of the roof higher. It would have looked weird. So instead, I decided to just get rid of that roof area. And then if the cable car ends up going to another station later on, of course, then this could disappear and we could just fill that back in with the regular roof, though it would have to look like this on that side as well. And here comes the rain. Fantastic. Something I am kind of proud of is this doorway. Originally, I was going to try to make a fully glass door, but I decided that I'd rather have just an opening with some glass around it. Again, trying to make it look as realistic as possible. And then here's what we're looking like on the inside. We were able to get that sort of like crow's nest type feature up at the top, which is awesome. This needs railing. The station definitely needs some railing. We're definitely not done with this structure by any means, but I was able to add just a little bit more of a path underneath of the station. I think it turned out fantastic. This could be filled in. I would just have to redo the staircase. I'd have to delete it, fill this in, and then redo the steps, which I just didn't really want to try to do today. So, on that note, ladies and gents, unfortunately, that is all the time I have for today. And since it's going to be a little while until I see you next, whether you celebrate Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, or something else that I haven't heard of because I'm extremely uncultured, I want to wish you all a very, very happy holiday. And with that, if you guys did enjoy, please leave a like, leave a comment, help support the dream by smashing that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Peace.